This is Razor Blackenborrough again, narrating for Jet Black so that he can give his vocal cords a much-needed rest. After all, it is very hard for a gorilla to continuously speak like a human being, but he does it because it might benefit someone someday. The following is his message. As salam alaikum to some of you, and peace to the rest of you. Also, just because the misandrists and the pro-whack crowd don't like it, long live Africa. Shouts out to those of you who have sent anything to Cash App, and you know who you are, though the rest of you have held on those single-dollar bills, even though you hear the message. Another option is to go to the Jet Black Air Lounge and subscribe there, and get content that isn't here on YouTube, including insights to living here outside of working by itself. This message is unlike others I might start without the peace greeting, because it is inappropriate there. This one carries a must that I begin with it, because of the content itself. There are those who specialize in this and have a lot more committed to memory than I do, but they may not have access to as intelligent an audience as you, nor an audience as committed to an actual cultural revolution that is so positive as you are. Quiet as is kept, many black Muslim men in the Anglosphere of the Americas would like a true and positive cultural revolution, but have given up hope because they can't imagine the sisterin tolerating such, let alone accompanying them in matrimony to pass that revolution down. Oh no, not at all. There is no such hope among us within the black communities of North America anymore, nor the Anglophone nations of the islands either, for that matter. The ratchet, often pronounced rat shit, culture of the daughters of Africa in the Americas infects even the Muslimahs with their hair covered in public. Brittany Renner is more common than many think she is. However, many of you listening now want the same cultural revolution that many black Muslim men want, and what I'm going to tell you is to help you see a way that can allow this to last generations and even centuries, then millennia, as it once did, working successfully until it was abandoned. You and I have been told that Islam was merely a weapon of Arabs to colonize Africa before the white man ever even thought of such. While this may have been true in North Africa west of Egypt, by that time the Berbers were already of so many complexions that today's so-called pro-blacks would call them infiltrators if they even claimed the black ancestry they did have, swearing loyalty to our race in the event of a racial conflict. Tariq Nasheed, whose name itself is not only Arabic but common among Muslims, would call them tethers, even if they never claimed to be FBA, but merely said they were our cousins in race. He would never let them finish the sentence, then he'd say that they smell like cheetah urine and grilled gorilla prime rib before they could even clarify their positions. We have been lied to about a few things, one of them being that Islam is merely the Arabs' weapon against tropical black Africa, and another that Africans are our enemies because the entire continent was in favor of the slave trade and they were only too happy to sell each other across the ocean and into the New World, with no help or destabilization by Europeans on the coast. Neither are true. Allow me to explain briefly, and you may check with C.L. Edwards on YouTube, Bilal of the YouTube channel called The Features, Rudolph Bilal Ware, also known as Butch Ware, a PhD holder. Though I may mispronounce some of these names, I will still tell you who these people are that are important to our history today on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean. I should start with Thierno Souleymane Baal Al-Qadri, who lived from 1720 to 1755. He was from the Fouta Toro region of Senegal, and they had been unfairly treated by the Moors from what's today northern Mauritania. They had been raided and taxed tribute, and so he led a jihad against the local rulers who allowed this and enjoyed the backing of the so-called Moors and against the Moors themselves. He never once thought that them claiming Islam and speaking something closer to Arabic made it okay, and he actually saw it as necessary in Islam to fight against them as oppressors for violating rules of Islam, and he was killed in battle in 1776. His successor was Abd al-Qadir Khan, who defeated the Moors and took tribute payments from them instead, reversing the relationship. Islam was a weapon of the Torodbe black people against the lighter-toned Moors of the north, opposite to what you and I have been told. Suleiman Bal Al-Qadri himself had not only fought to set straight the Moros, but also against the French for their slave trade in his region across the Atlantic too. He simply died while fighting the Moors, not the French. His successor won, but the Imamate government, called the Futatoro Imamate, was stared by him, and they expressly forbade slave trading to French or Moors alike. It was begun with a jihad for justice, not for Arab domination or black subjugation, but for justice specifically for the black people of that region, most of whom were Fulani, and many others who were Soninka, Mandingo, and Wolof. In what is now northern Nigeria, Usman Dan Fodio also made it a point to fight against enslavers of any kind, especially those who targeted Muslims, but de facto covering enslavers at all that could be discovered. His work was carried on by his daughter Nana Asma'u, not only in education, but also in opposing slavery. Additionally, the Isan people of Nigeria began to raid slave raiders themselves and created sanctuaries for people that had been liberated. The Isan are not largely Muslims, but carried on against bondage anyway. The Jola people of Senegal also resisted slavery, period, not just of themselves, but by definition, of anyone. As a matter of fact, though Shaka Zulu and his new tribe didn't seek to do so, their state building and expansion actually disrupted the plans of Europeans nearby to enslave people near the boundaries of the Zulu jurisdiction. Shaka, though not a saint, and never claiming to be, and his successors are indirectly responsible for the freedom of many black people in their region. Quiet as is kept, even Muhammad Ali Pasha of Egypt, which at this time was no longer Black Kemet anymore, resisted the trans-Saharan slave trade by modernizing equipment, not just to modernize, but to make slave labor unprofitable, and therefore make slavery itself unprofitable. He didn't want it in his jurisdiction, and he opposed it financially, driving down its demand. I do not say this as a fan of Muhammad Ali Pasha, as I do not know enough about him to love or hate him, but I say this to you to give credit where it is due. Even the Dahomey Kingdom, which was no role model of anything that we as FBA want for our future generations, had a ruler that fought both colonization and the slave trade by the colonizers on his coast. His name was King Behanzin. Under his particular rulership, he fought all slavery and white domination at all. For his efforts, the French moved him to Martinique in the Americas for 12 years, then to Algeria, where he died at age 61. Thus, Africans, both Muslim and non-Muslim alike, fought against oppressors of any origins, any colors, any language, even those claiming to be Muslim themselves. There was never a question of the Islam of one fighting oppression was weak because they fought back. This was a church phenomenon. When these non-black Muslims of today decide they will question the faith of black Muslims for raising our voices like Malcolm, or even raising our fists like Muhammad Ali, guys like Bilal of the Features and Jet Black are here to question the faith of the questioners themselves for not being militant enough on behalf of black people. However, it is not true that Arabs even could do much to run things in black Africa. The closest to come to that were Berbers out of the north of Africa, half-black themselves, calling themselves Arabs sometimes, and as you just heard, they got tossed around until they paid tribute to some Fulani and Wolof Muslims, the latter of which are so black. They wear white T-shirts for an hour to turn them blue, and their bathwater is used to make indigo dye if I am off of work that day. Being black and Muslim doesn't mean that all of the non-black Muslims are hugging us as brothers, though many of them actually do so voluntarily. It does mean that we are well within our rights to fight back if they get out of line, and we actually enjoy it because they are wrong and we are right for opposing them. It also means that when we oppose someone, we oppose oppression, period, because oppression is the definition of wrong, and we don't sustain permanent losses, because hell is permanent, but it isn't for those of us who fight oppression. You will not be convinced of Islam's truth because of what I just told you, but you should know now that Arabs aren't our masters, and frankly, they didn't try to become such in Black Africa in most cases, and when they did try in Zanzibar, they always met resistance, and eventually paid very dearly and in excruciating pain of being burned alive long after slavery was over. Islam in Africa isn't the problem, and it isn't the problem among the Africans in the diasporans, but I will leave it to Rudolph Ware and Bilal of the Features to tell you more about the actual benefits it brought to our ancestors back home. Until that point, I hope this helps, and I mean that from the bottom of my black heart and from the depth of my black mind. Thank you again for listening. Black, heterosexual, non-select male power just because our opponents don't like it, and black patriarchy until extinction or Judgment Day. Thank you flying with us here on Jet Black Air, where the phrase jet black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with us until the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender justice forever.